By the time war came to the continent, Imperial Japan had more than 10 times Australia's population, at more than 73 million. And after the Japanese bombed the northern Australian city of Darwin in 1942, fears across the continent were rife that an imminent Japanese invasion was coming. And while the invasion never actually materialized, the Australian government nonetheless came to believe that they needed to increase their population to avoid the threat of another invasion scare like that again in the future. Before 1945, almost all the immigrants to Australia came from either Great Britain or Ireland. But after the war, Australia for the very first time began encouraging immigration from across the European continent. The policies restricting immigration largely only to Britons were gradually relaxed to be more inclusive of all Europeans, and by the 1960s, 3 million mainland Europeans from places like the Baltic states, Poland, Italy, the Balkans, and Greece packed up their bags and headed to Australia to begin a brand new life, many of them being displaced refugees from the war. But the exclusion of non-whites as immigrants to the continent remained largely in force for several more decades even after the war. It wasn't until 1973, nearly 3 decades after the end of World War II, that the White Australia policy was finally overturned and race ceased being a factor in the continent's immigration policy. Ever since, Australia has maintained an official policy of multiculturalism and has welcomed large-scale, multi-ethnic immigration for decades from all across the world. And now, in the 21st century, the vast majority of new immigrants to the continent come from Asia and not from Europe, especially from China and India. Today, Australia caps the new numbers of immigrants to the continent at less than 200,000 a year, which, for a country of only 26 million, is actually a pretty consistently high rate of immigration. As of 2022, nearly 1 in 3 people on the Australian continent was born outside of it, which is by far the highest proportion of immigrants found in the population of any developed Western nation. Australia today is a proud nation of immigrants from all across the world, and by 2050, the continent's population is projected to increase up to around 36 million. About the same as Canada today, and largely through continued immigration. But the growth over the next 2 decades will not come without its challenges. The continent's ancient natural challenges like unpredictable rainfall, drying rivers, droughts, and vast arid wilderness, along with new challenges like the uncertain course of climate change, mean that Australia has an epic battle against its own environment ahead of it to continue increasing their population. But despite all the odds that are stacked up against them, the country is actually one of the world's most major agricultural producers and exporters. With more than 104 million sheep on the continent, there are 4 times as many sheep as humans, and consequently, Australia is the world's 2nd largest producer of sheep and wool, and the 5th largest producer of beef. In addition, Australia is the home of slightly more than half of all the world's certified organic farmland, and is a global leader in almond and lentils production. And best of all, Australia's rich culinary culture is heavily represented by the sponsor of this video, HelloFresh, through delicious recipes like their sweet and savory pancakes, crumbed pumpkin wedges, or Lamington-style chocolate brownies. And if you're anything like me, you typically struggle a lot to decide what to do at dinner time. Should I order expensive takeout, eat unhealthy freezer food, or make a time-consuming home-cooked meal? I struggled with all of these same decisions for years until I began using HelloFresh, because it's simultaneously healthy, affordable, and best of all, quick.